Joining me now is a lawyer, Fred Nzako. It's good to have you join us right now. It's quite a while, though.
Quite a while, Mike.
Now, let's start from the Constitution. We have often heard many lawyers say that the law, the Constitution, in some areas is so vague that it gives room or leaves room for interpretation here and there and so on, and then it leads to confusion. Is that really where to start from when it comes to reforms in the judiciary?
Reform. There is no law, or rather, there is no constitution that is foolproof all over the world. And there is no piece of legislation, no document prepared by a human being or human beings that can be said to be perfect. And that is why the constitution and the laws are open to amendments, open to reviews towards getting them in tandem with the realities of the now. And that does not mean that every now and then people will latch on whatever perceived loophole that there is to scuttle the intendment of the law. Yes, in our laws, for example, there's copiously a lot of laws that need to be reviewed and then bring them in line with the realities. But when you look at the implementation, most times a society that is perverse or that tends to be very pervasive, where instead of looking at the spirit and letters of the law, we'll always look at for the loopholes to shortcut, to undermine, and to gain undue advantage.
Is that where Nigeria finds itself?
Unfortunately, that is where Nigeria finds itself. And that is why some people will argue that it is not all much about the reformation of the laws, but the formation of the people's character, the formation of the people's mindset, and the people's attitude. Because there's no way you will always find a law that is foolproof. But if the mindset of the people, because even without the laws, nature, the good nature has given every human being what is called natural conscience. And then if natural conscience becomes an overriding principle in adjudication and then in the discharge of our responsibilities, you find out that even where the laws are not good, natural conscience will make them correct.
All right. In a country like ours where some people throw what they say caution to the wind one way or the other to do different things just to have their way, where the new Chief Justice has come on board and he's saying there has to be reforms. How challenging is his task going ahead, really, when you look at it from the window where you're explaining?
The task is very challenging, but I think it is more challenging on his own desk.
Why is that?
I'll tell you why.
But he said the issue of corruption and all of those things is farther down there.
I'll tell you why it is more challenging on his own desk.
Okay.
The fish rottens from the head, we say. If the leader of any institution is clean, the institution will tend to be clean. And then that cleanliness will cascade down to the lowest level. Okay. Let's take, for example, what is going on in Nigeria as of today. And I believe, and most people believe, that the biggest corruption against the people is electoral corruption. The biggest fraud against the people is electoral fraud. As we speak, Nigeria is expecting the judiciary to save this country from the morass that we have fallen into. The judiciary has always been up and going in that, and judiciary has always come to rescue the country at terrible bends where we tend to want to trip off. Now is one of those times. Let's take, for example, the governorship and the presidential election tribunals that are ongoing now. Nigerians expect that because at the end of the day, ultimately, it is the Supreme Court that will give the final nod on every judgment emanating from at that level. If the Supreme Court gets it right, everything will be gotten right. And then it cascades down. If Supreme Court doesn't get it right, everything will not be getting right in Nigeria. And then it gets into huge challenges. And that is why I am happy that he's confirmed at this point. So he will have nothing to fear. He has the mandate.
In carrying out
his responsibility. He has the mandate and the authority of the Nigerian people.
All right. We have to leave it here now. So much to talk about when it comes to, structures of discipline and all of that. Fred Nzako, thank you so much for coming.
Many
thank
thanks.
you. Right.
Thanks.
Joining me is a lawyer, Fred Nzako. Thank you very much for joining me.
Many thanks.
Justice Tanko said the lower ebb of the judiciary is culpable. Do you agree with that statement?
Culpability does not lie only at the lowest ebb of judiciary. Of course, the CJN said, singled out magistrate courts as being the most corrupt. That did not expressly mean that other levels of a judicial system are not corrupt. There is huge corruption at the High Court, there is massive corruption at the Court of Appeal, and there is corruption at the Supreme Court. If you take by the number, yes, there are more magistrate courts than the High Appeal and the Supreme Courts. Yeah. So, but if you look at the preponderance, it cuts across. And then that does not also mean that there are no men or women of integrity at the bench. It's a societal problem that there's corruption across board. And then the rating by Transparency International singling out the judiciary, the police, and the other agency of government as being corrupt. Tell me which agency of government is not corrupt in Nigeria. And tell me which Nigerian does not have tendency for corruption. It is
do you have the tendency for corruption?
Do you have? I ask you.
Okay, that's the same question I'll ask it ourselves.
Or don't you? It's a very terrible tendency that we really need to work on.
Okay, now that Justice Tanko has been confirmed as the CJN.
Yes.
What plans should he put in place to tackle corruption, especially at the lower ebb of the judiciary?
Let him start from the highest level of judiciary, and that is where he is the chairman of NJC and the Chief Justice of Nigeria and the head of judiciary in Nigeria, so that the spring will not get foul from the source. And once that is clean, what is important is the way and manner judicial officers are appointed is even the first step.
Okay.
Appointment, the way and manner judicial officers, if appointment is based on merit and integrity, then you begin to curb the incidences of corruption. If judicial officers are taken care of by the state, it tends to well taken care of, and then provide them with enabling environment for work. Then it tends to reduce the incidence of corruption. And then if there is no protection, in quote, official protection of corrupt officers, then those who have the tendencies would want not to exhibit such tendencies. But in the event where there is high level of executive protection because of the incidences of connection, as we say in Nigeria, and then the one who has the tendency for corruption would exhibit such tendencies. So if all these things are put in place, at least you begin from that point.
Okay.
And most importantly, I must say, it is important that Nigerians decide who leads them by themselves. Such decision is ultra important because such decision will throw out the best for every position.
Okay, so for the issue of corruption,
yes,
what do we need a constitutional reform for the judiciary to address that situation?
Not only judiciary, we need massive constitutional reform in Nigeria. Some jurists.
Will that address the issue of corruption?
No, of course it will address every issue because corruption does not stand on its own per se. Corruption stands intermingling with the rest of the activities in the society. A structure that is not pro-production, a structure that is pro-consumption will lead to lopsided distribution of resources. And that is a veritable tool for corruption and corrupt tendencies. So we need to massively rejig our system and then restructure our environment. That will help to reduce the incidences of corruption. Of course, I use the word advisedly reduce because you cannot outrightly eliminate corruption from any human society.
But it can be reduced to the barest minimum.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, Fred Nzako, for talking to us.
Many thanks.